Hello everybody and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And today we're just set up for a quick solo game of Europe. This is the, I think, like 1999 version, something like that. And yeah, we're going to go for it. I'm going to try a different tactic this turn or this round. And I always like to share with you what my intentions are. And typically I use these and I bring with the transport a couple of guys over and we try to do Egypt and get up into here. This time I'm not going to bother doing that. We are still going to fight here, but we are not going to worry too much about trying to take over the oil fields this time. It may still happen. We may do all right. But there's a fighter here on Malta, and that is something that sometimes gives us some problems. So we are going to take out the fighter on Malta. We're going to land some guys there in a bombard, and hopefully that's enough to take it. But then we are going to just bring guys over and head over to Syria. We're gonna head in behind. So in 2 turns we'll be in Syria instead of in 2 turns just being in Egypt. So that's the plan right now. Not sure if it's all going to work, but that's the plan for the Germans. Plus, going hard here and just trying to kill as many Russians as we possibly can in the first couple of rounds. Because they have numbers on us, no doubt. And as you know, in this version, tanks defend at a 2, not at a 3. But they only cost $5. So, I know a lot of people just go hair on fire and try to get into into the Russian hinterland as soon as they possibly can. But we're going to try to kill as much stuff as we can. I forgot to put the German bomber on, so there it is. All right, and as far as the Allies go, we're just going to try to land and start doing as much messing around as we possibly can here on the continent in France proper, if we can. And yeah, so wish us luck on that. And yeah. We're going to probably spend a little bit more on submarines and trying to keep the Allies at bay as long as we can. Since we can't hurt them as much with the oil, we're going to try to hurt them just by sinking their ships and convoying them as much as possible. Okay, round 1 coming up. We'll let you know how it goes right after this. All right, round 2 is about to begin, and we'll just let you know what went on this round. Nothing too out of the ordinary. You might end up with a British bomber and we'll turn Soviet in a few moments. And that's pretty much it. The Germans went big into the Baltic states. They did have a successful attack into here, but an unsuccessful defense of the territory. So the Soviets do have some troops in there, which isn't an awful lot of fun. A little bit of repositioning by the British here, as well as Egypt. They took an artillery up here just to take Greece for $1, because why not? So, having done that, the British are collected a little bit more money. Malta, the fighter did die. You can hear the fighter jets possibly overhead. Here in Abbotsford, the Abbotsford Air Show is starting up. And so I think they're doing some practice laps out there so you can hear them. And the Germans did have a convoy going here and one here, but they had a very good first round. They were able to eradicate all of the British boats on the board, except for here in the Med, of course. And that's where we stand now. So the British saved their money, such as it was, and they are going to have a build next turn, but there's just too many subs. There are 6 subs in the North Atlantic, and another 2 in the south, as well as a destroyer in their battle wagon, of course. Could be tough. But on the ground, the Germans will have to take care of this nonsense here. And in the water, yeah, it might be worth it. I did build a destroyer and a sub with the Germans, and then I built 4 tanks. So, yeah, that's where we're at right now. And we'll let you know how round 2 goes. Looks good in the Atlantic for the Germans, but on land, not quite as good, but not terrible either. We'll give you an update right away. Round 2 is in the books, and not a lot has changed. We did get some British fighters over here, and the Russians did turn that bomber into one of theirs. And their own bomber did some good work down here in Ukraine. The Germans had taken Ukraine, but the Soviets were able to wrest control of the territory back from the Germans. But the Germans are pressing here with a follow-up attack. You got these guys in Romania, so they do have some cannon fodder, as it were. Down here in the Med, took out the British destroyer. It did get a hit, but of course the battleship absorbs that and shrugs it off to move on in the game. The British have their artillery down here still, mainly because I forgot to move it. So I probably should have moved it up one, just to bring some of the German stuff back. But hey, snooze you lose. Get a little caught up in the game sometimes. So the Germans have a lot of stuff massed on the front, and the Soviets have decided to make their stand in Leningrad. Now, I like Leningrad as a good place to make a stand. The British fighters can make it here, and the Soviets are able to then attack into Russia if they need to, or into Belarusia. And because you need to typically come through Belarusia to get to Moscow. You could take the long way around if you want. Belarus is kind of the quick way to do it. So this gives them an awful lot of stuff to punch with. And now that they have some air power, should be able to exact some measure of relief and buy themselves some time. And they're going to need some time because the British once again saved their money. I just couldn't put more stuff in the water. They only had, what did they have? About $45 or something like that. And I don't know if you know much about this game, but destroyers cost 12 and subs cost 8. And battleships are very expensive at 24, so they are not cheap. But speaking of battleships, the Americans did build one along with a destroyer and a transport after having saved a little bit of money the first round. And they are trying to build up a fleet because the Germans just have so many U-boats out here, and I built another one and another destroyer this turn. So while I don't have as much stuff on ground as I'd like, keeping the Brits out of the war this long has been good. And I am convoying the Russians for 4 and the Brits for a total of 8. And yeah, they can continue to do so. And the Americans, that's why they built a destroyer to come and help with that. So that's where we are right now. Round 3. I might actually move everybody into Belarusia this turn. There's only 8 infantry. It's rarely a big target, but it's the counterattack. And that's why you leave all your stuff back in this game. If I can give you any hint at all, try to leave your tanks off the front lines if you can, because they defend so poorly, and you want to use them at the right time for a good counterattack, which may be coming next turn. All right, we shall see. Turn 3 is typically a pretty pivotal one. I don't know if it will be this game, thanks to the poor Brits not building anything. Heading into round 4, and kind of a good news, bad news thing for both sides. The good news for the Germans is they were able to take Belarusia. Good news for the Soviets, they were able to take it back. The good news for the Germans is they had to use every single unit on the board to take it back. So all they have left is a couple infantry down here that weren't in range, and their build, and what survived the attacks. So now the Germans, who have a decent stack up here, likely can take Leningrad this turn. Could also just head right to Russia and threaten Moscow directly. Meanwhile, all this stuff could attack Belarusia and cut off Moscow from the help here in Leningrad. So it's looking pretty dire there. The Atlantic continues to look dire as well. Good news, bad news. So good news for the Germans. They still got a lot of subs. And the good... Oh, my cat's here. Oh, all right. Cat brought me a present. Yeah. All right. I'm doing a war here, Cat. And the British did their build up here in Canada because around here there's just too many subs that could hit it. and I knew that I wanted to hang on to these boats. So the Americans had to liberate their own convoy here, and that forced the building of another couple of destroyers to protect the transports. So there are 4 German subs that can hit the U.S. coast here and attack these 2 destroyers and 3 transports. Now, again, in this game, transports defend themselves at a 1, and I have had a couple of hits with transports this game already. So it's not just an easy, clean sweep. But now that the British have a good force, they don't have any transports yet, but the Americans certainly have them built up, and they've got a load of 2 tanks and 4 men ready to come across. So the Germans can't just sit around looking at this anymore. I think they've got to take a poke at that and see if they can't put them back yet another turn. Down here in the Middle East, the Germans came in. There was nobody there, and were able to just take Egypt. And so they got $1 paid by the British, actually, because the Americans had the perfect amount to do their build. So the British were able to cough up £1, as it were. All right, well, we got to start getting some definitive roles here for the Soviets. They really need to do well. They did well in this battle. I'm not going to lie. They only lost 14 men, and they killed 10 tanks, and, well, they killed 19 units for the cost of 14 men. And most of them were tanks, some artillery, and then a few men. So definitely on their side. But that's everything they had, like I said. So they're pretty empty here. Germans are going to be able to grab a few things. So we'll see. If the Germans fail at this attack, there's hope for the Allies. If they succeed, I don't think there's much hope that the Soviets will be able to hold off the German war machine much longer. But time will tell. Turn 4 coming up. All right, so here we are, turn 5, and again, good news, bad news. Well, the Germans are knocking on the door with a decent stack of guys here, and the Russians do have enough to stop them, and they were able to take Belarusia back. Only 3 guys remain, and the Germans just are threatening everywhere here. Not a ton of power, and not a ton of shields, as it were, for their tanks, right? Not a lot of infantry divisions, but they are... they do have enough to get knocking on the door. So down here, they continue to inch their way up. Again, I've taken nothing from the mainland up here. This is all pretty much, I guess I brought a couple of infantry over, but it's pretty much everything that was indigenous to North Africa. But as we can see now, the British are poised to land some divisions here, and the Americans have some as well. They've got no real threat from the U-boats anymore. There's one here, can't reach, and kind of has to be careful about what it does these days. We'll probably head south and try to take little bits of the British again. This Soviet convoy is probably going to get liberated, but of course Archangel could fall any moment should the Germans desire to do so. So this is where we're at. We've finally got ourselves a bit of a raid going on. I won't call it a full-scale invasion, but there is an existential threat to the Germans now, who can't simply just build tanks and submarines. They're going to have to start building infantry to protect Germany. But they won't be able to get into Moscow this turn, and they'll have to take Belarusia without too many losses in order to continue threatening Moscow. But that's where we're at. Very interesting turn, and things have really switched quickly. So there's a shot of the board. Turn 5 coming up. Could be decisive, just like all the other turns. And the game continues. The Soviets were able to come in here and beat up the 6 German units that were there, as you can see, for the loss of a few of their own. They had, 7, and they ended up losing all but 1, and they had a very meager build but the fighters and the bombers remain. But the Germans now only have scattered infantry up here within range of Moscow, and they do have a stack of tanks, so there are 9 tanks there, but they can't get through that lone infantry. So, yeah, we'll have to see what happens here. The Germans built everything at home last turn because I knew that this was going to happen. The British have landed. Not much of a huge threat and will likely be dispatched this turn. But again, anything that's not going into the Soviet Union is a bonus. Plus, the Brits were able to grab the Caucasus. The Germans had taken it, and there was one guy in there, one artillery in there, and they sent in a tank and a man. Lost a man doing it, but were able to grab $4 for the hapless Soviets. And down here, not much left for the Germans to do, but they will take over the rest of the $8 this turn. Right now they have 4 of them, as you can see here. All right, so the British and the Americans have some decent fleets here. The Americans are going to be able to drop off 3 units this turn. They've tooled up to bring in 4 more the next turn, so not quite a shuck yet, but we're getting close. They were able to somewhat kamikaze a bomber and a fighter to take out 2 of the German destroyers, because the Germans, they had the air power here, and then they had 3 destroyers and a couple of subs that are within range of causing some grief, and I figured we've got to take care of some of that stuff. So we did, and I think the threat is now gone. I still might do a last-ditch attack on the British here, because every hit's going to sink something, whereas a hit on the Americans, one will get just eaten up by the battleship. So, on to round 6, and yeah, I think turn 7 will be either the end for Moscow, or where the Germans will have to say, we've lost the momentum, and here comes the Allies. We'll show you in just a moment. Well, barring divine intervention, I think this is going to be the last round of the game. I believe that Moscow will fall. We have a stack of 8 tanks here, followed up by a stack of 3 tanks, and we got a tank here, and a tank here that can all make it. So that is 14 tanks that can smash into Moscow, as well as 4 humble infantry divisions. And that's just going to be too much for the Soviets to handle. Now, if they actually do hold on, and I doubt it, but even if they do hold on, we do have some interesting things afoot here in Norway. The British were able to land successfully and take it, and there's some fast movers there for the Brits and the Americans, so they could come over here and start pestering the Wehrmacht, and yeah, that could be a real problem. I had designs possibly on trying to do a 1-2 punch, and knowing this, maybe I should have done it. I could land 6 units with the Brits and have a fighter in there, and then I could land another 6 units with the Americans. But there are 7 infantry, there are 6 fighters and 2 bombers. So while costly, I don't believe Germany would have fallen with those odds. I just don't think it would have happened. So we went up here instead. If they all attacked at the same time, yeah, maybe, but I think these fighters would likely chew through those 6 if the infantry don't beforehand. So this is what it's coming down to. So we're going to do the battle. We'll let you know how it goes. All right, so for your viewing pleasure, we are going to do the final battle here for Moscow. And I do say final because if I had to bet the house on it, yes, the Russians are going to lose. So there are, as mentioned before, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 tanks, 4 infantry. So there's 18 units versus we have 5 infantry and a tank and 3 fighters and 2 bombers. So This is about like a 98% odds for the Germans to win. My cat's meowing at me again. What's wrong? Yeah, anyway. All right. Here's all the jets outside. It's freaking them out. So I'm not bringing any aircraft with the Germans, so we'll just do the battle here. Here are the infantry at 1. Nothing there. Okay, but then on to 14. 4, 5, 6, 7. 14 at 3. Well, if they roll like that, they may actually lose. 1 hit. Wow, only 3 hits. Okay, well, this is a battle for survival, so we'll take those. Could you be witnessing history in the making, folks? I don't know. 1s. That would have been fairly dramatic. 6 at 2. Wow, these dice are not liking anybody. So just 1 hit. And then 3 fighters at 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 4 hits. So that'll be all the German infantry and all the Russian bombers. And Germany will absolutely make that trade. All right. And 1 infantry is gone. Okay. So we still have our 14 tanks. Let's see if they can shoot a little straighter this time. Oh, that's much better. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 hits. 5, 6, 7 hits. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So we've got 5 at 2. Not a sausage. And then 3 at 4. That'll be a hit because that'll either go 4 or 1, and I'm thinking it'll go 1. So 1 hit. So there's just 1 plane left. So we'll roll our tanks here. All right. Well, one of them got a hit. I only rolled 5 dice for them. The fighter with a miss. Okay, so we're going to end up with 13 tanks sitting in Moscow. No Soviet troops on the board. And no Soviet units on the board. Nothing there. You may wonder why I put a tank in there. Well, they had $5 to spend last turn, and I didn't want the Germans carting off more than that, although it is all academic at this point. So Germany's entire build will go into Germany, and then 1 each in Leningrad, Archangel, and Stalingrad. And that's it, folks. A little bit of an anticlimactic finish. Usually I like closer battles at the end. But you can even see down here, the Germans are being pesky convoy artists again. And yeah, they just had the upper hand. This whole game, that first round really set them up when they were able to take out the entire British Navy in the Atlantic, as well as the next turn wiping out a bunch of the Americans. So they bought themselves lots of time, spent a little bit on subs, about a sub each round, and a destroyer for the first 2 rounds. But that seemed to give them the time that they needed to get into the Soviet Union and finally to Moscow. Well, thanks so much for watching, folks. As we always say here at the Hilltop Pillbox, hug your loved ones, thank your friends for playing, and may those dice be with you.